Thomas here with Aquarium Know-How. In the last video I taught you how to disassemble and take apart an aquarium, and in this video we're going to start putting those glass pieces back together. But first, as I was cleaning off all the silicone on the pieces of glass, I ran into a lot of hard water deposits. You can see some of the worst of them there. These are pretty bad. Generally you would use white vinegar to get that stuff off. I tried some vinegar. I got some of the other stuff off, the stuff that wasn't so bad, but this isn't coming off, and it's even with a razor blade scraping it's hard. So I'm going to show you a trick on how to get rid of that. And then we'll get to putting the aquarium together. Okay, so what we're going to be using is some of this stuff. Barkeeper's Friend. I actually got this idea from Joey at King of DIY, so don't think it's my idea. You know, this is going to be the first time I'm trying it, so we'll find out how well it works together. So the directions say to sprinkle onto a wet surface, rub gently with a cloth or sponge, rinse thoroughly within a minute of application, then wipe dry. So, get it wet. I guess the idea behind this is that it's very acidic. A lot more acidic than vinegar is. Not sure if we let it sit on there or if we just try to rub it out. So I'll let that sit there for a few minutes. I haven't taken a razor blade to this section yet either, so you might need to come in and take as much of it off with a razor blade as possible, and then we'll try it again. It does seem to be working pretty good. Definitely much better. Let me try to take some of this off with a razor blade first, and then we'll try that stuff again. There we go, that did a pretty good job. I'm going to go ahead and do it a little bit more, and I think I'll be able to get all that off of there. Seems to definitely work a little better if you let it sit on there for a little while. I only let it sit on there for maybe 2 minutes, and it came down to that. I've just been doing it in stages and seeing how it turns out. Next time I'll probably leave it on a little bit longer. So I'll go ahead and do that, get these other panels prepped, and then we'll start with putting it together and siliconing. Okay, so I've got all the panels cleaned off, and what you want to do now is lay them out. Pick which panels you want to go where. This is the best one, so I'm going to have that on the front, that'll be the back, and the 2 sides, and the bottom obviously. Now I put tape around here, so as we glue, the tape will hold it in place. The tape will already be there, so we can just stick it on to hold the bottom down. And then when we put the 2 side panels together, we can put tape on those to hold the corners. So this is the silicone I'll be using. Just make sure it's 100% silicone and there's no mold inhibitors or anything. This says mold free, but it's just saying that mold doesn't like to grow on this. But you don't want any mold or mildew additives in it. Just 100% silicone and clear, unless you want a different color, but I'm going with clear. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay a bead of silicone on this top layer here, all the way around the whole perimeter, and then one by one we will stand the glass up and tape it in place. And with each panel you put up and tape the corners of, it'll start to hold itself together. And as we do it, or as we put the other panels up, we'll have to run a little bit of silicone on the sides that touch. You'll watch me do this, I'm just explaining it to you now, because I'm going to have to move a little bit quickly as I do it. You only have a certain amount of time before the silicone starts to skim over. After we get the perimeter and the side pieces glued, and it starts to look like a tank where everything's 3-dimensional, all the sides are up, then we'll go through and lay another bit of silicone around all the seams. It's just going to help seal it from leaks basically. The first bit of silicone we put on is just going to bond the panels of glass together, and then the next layer we do is going to seal it and just add a little bit of extra protection to it. So I'm going to set this on the tripod and you can watch how I do it. And when you do this, make sure you got your tape handy, silicone handy, square handy to make sure everything's squared up. Laying the silicone down, you want it about as thick as the glass is. This glass is 3/8 inch thick. Now on this one, we're going to run the silicone on the edge of this, because this front panel is going to sit right on top of this. And as I'm going around, I'm just running my finger on in between the two pieces of glass at the seam to make sure they're as level as possible. And if they're not, I'm just kind of pushing it a little bit. With each panel, it gets a little bit easier to line up. Now we'll get our square. Good, it does fit. We'll make sure everything's level and square. If it's not, if it's a little uneven, this side, the bottom was kicked out a little bit, so I'm just pushing that in to where it's all sitting flush along this square. Silicone smudges or whatever on there, just let it cure. Don't try to wipe it off. If you let it cure, you can just take a razor blade later and scrape it off. It's easier than trying to get a whole bunch of it that you smeared all over it trying to clean it. So everything's squared. Now before the silicone cures, we're going to go through and I'm going to lay another layer that's going to kind of overlap the corners of the glass. What we've done is we've put silicone in between where the two pieces of glass come together like that. Now we're going to put a little silicone in the corner to make sure it's sealed. But you want to put that silicone on now before it cures, because new silicone does not stick very well to cured silicone. So we want to do this all while it's wet. Later we can come in after it's cured with a razor blade and clean up all the edges and all the smudge marks we've made. Alright, double check we got all the seams. I'm going to make sure that it's still squared up. So that looks good. Now we're going to put the center brace on. This should be 48 inches roughly, exactly. Now let's take the center brace. That's 12 inches. 48 and a half is 24. Take 6 off of that would bring us to 18. We should have 8. If this is, the center brace is 12 inches and the whole thing's 48. We should have 18 inches on each side. Perfect. And on the center brace, since this is the front, I made sure that was nice and level. There's just a tiny bit of overhang on this, on the back side, but that's okay as long as the front's level, everything should be good. You want to put this brace resting on top of the glass, not in between the pieces of glass, and that should be it. Okay, so we're all done. We're going to let it cure for 24 to 48 hours with this thick of silicone that I put on and the thickness of the glass and everything. I'm just going to let it go for 48 hours just to be 100% sure it's all cured. If we take a look, you can see we've got a lot of this stuff squishing out. That's fine. Once it all cures, we'll take a razor blade and we will clean all that up really nice. Same with the inside. With the inside here, you can see from my finger it's got a little lip on this outer edge. We'll go through later and we'll smooth that out, clean it up, because it doesn't need to come out quite that far. We can cut it in a little bit and make it look a little bit cleaner. The bottom doesn't really matter because we're going to fill that with dirt and sand and whatnot. So we'll come back in 48 hours and see if we wasted a whole bunch of time and it leaks, or if we did something right. So if you want to see that video, go ahead and subscribe. Leave a comment if you have questions, and like this video if it was helpful for you. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.